Welcome to episode 6 of Insight Weekly, a podcast from Intelligence Fusion which provides listeners with an overview of the most significant incidents from across the globe in the previous 7 days. I'm sure you'll be familiar with some of these faces by now. We've got our senior analysts Max and Vincent, as well as our regional analysts Chris and Megan, who is on the line this week again. As always, let's just start with Megan and her insight into Africa this week.
Right, so on the 28th, in Turkana County, Kenya, suspected bandits attacked a police vehicle carrying construction workers to a village. In total, about 3 people were killed and they think about 15 were wounded. It was reported that the bandits were heavily armed and the attack may well have been planned. At present, I don't think anyone's been arrested in connection with the attack, and it's not clear if anything was stolen by the bandits. Officials have sort of since called for increased action to disarm bandits in the region to make it safer for travellers, because there's been a large amount of concern generated over the attacking of people travelling through remote areas. Normally, it seems that bandit attacks tend to target livestock owners, but recently they appear to be more opportunistic and hence have attacked a vehicle carrying construction workers instead.
Thank you, Megan. Max, you are talking to us about Syria this week.
Yeah, so this week I decided to focus on the Syrian government offensive that's taken place around Idlib and the city of Aleppo in the west of the city. So in Idlib itself, there's been massive artillery and airstrikes targeting rebel-held towns, causing quite extensive civilian casualties. And the majority of the airstrikes have been carried out by the Russian military, although the Syrian Air Force is believed to have joined in as and when as well. And in addition to the airstrikes, there's been gunships dropping barrel bombs on towns, and this has been quite well documented on social media by Syrians living in the area itself. There's been pretty continuous airstrikes and artillery fire in this area. However, in the last few weeks, it's really picked up around Idlib and West Aleppo, leading people to suspect that there's an offensive coming. And needless to say, this is exactly what's happened. So the Syrian government offensive in the Idlib area started off around the city of Mar al-Numan, which they captured after the rebels withdrew without putting up much of a fight. It seems that the rebels were conscious that fighting within the city itself would overstretch them and potentially destroy the city even further than it's already been damaged by the artillery and airstrikes. Since the government forces captured Mar al-Numan, there's been fighting in the towns surrounding this main hub of Mar al-Numan. And the M5 highway, which leads through the town, has also seen heavy fighting along the route, and the M5 highway is believed to be a very important main supply route. So fighting along here has been particularly significant because the Syrian government is very keen to control this road. Around West Aleppo itself, a very similar situation to what we've seen in Idlib, where there's been massive artillery and airstrikes on rebel-held areas which have preceded this offensive. Government forces have been reinforcing the area for quite a long time before the attack as well, so it didn't come as a surprise to anyone that the government forces would eventually attack in this area. When the attack started, there were areas where rebels were able to hold back the Syrian government offensives, but mostly government forces have been successful in capturing villages and towns backed by massive Russian air support and artillery fire. The main question now is what's going to happen to the Turkish observation points which have been deployed around Aleppo itself, as well as the future of the rebel forces. So the Turkish observation points, which have taken a non-combat role, have been targeted by Syrian artillery, but we're not sure whether the Turkish forces are going to respond in any way, shape or form for the time being. But with the capture of Mar al-Numan and potential further captures of towns as we speak, the fate of rebel forces in the Idlib pocket does seem to be quite bleak.
Thanks, Max. Chris, I believe you have an update on the coronavirus for us.
So yeah, following up on last week's insight into the Wuhan virus in Asia, I'm going to look a bit more at Europe and North America this week. So while 170 people have been confirmed to have died of the illness and over 7,000 infected, mostly in China, we now have in Europe about 10 cases confirmed, 5 of which are in France, 4 in Germany and 1 in Finland. While in North America, we have 5 cases in the US and 2 in Canada. And at the moment, we're seeing sort of an evolving response from the governments of these countries. America yesterday flew in 201 consulate staff and US citizens from Wuhan and are now keeping them in quarantine for about 3 days' time. to make sure that they're not infected with the virus. Well, in the UK, we've seen companies like British Airways cancelling all flights to China in an attempt to restrict the spread of the virus.
Thank you, Chris. And over to you, Vincent.
Yes, so on Tuesday, 2 people were killed and 5 were wounded when an anti-personnel mine went off while they were collecting coca leaf in a rural area of the municipality of Roberto Payan in the department of Nariño in Colombia. The wounded were taken to the hospital in the municipality, where 3 were later taken to the hospital in Pasto for treatment. There's no clear indication on who's responsible for the attack, but both FARC dissidents and ELN guerrillas operate in the area and often place mines in coca fields in order to target military personnel who conduct eradication operation. This attack comes 4 days after a 12-year-old boy was also wounded by another mine in the rural area of Tumaco in the same department. He was also collecting coca leaf with his father at the time. The use of explosives by armed groups in the area is quite varied and but also affects all of Colombia. Just on Monday as well, 3 people were wounded by another mine in the Buenos Aires area of the Department of Coca. And all this kind of relates to the new eradication operations, which will begin this weekend. But this time, authorities will be accompanied by 80 dogs who've recently been trained in sniffing out explosives, and these operations will be deployed in the departments of Nariño, Putumayo, and Antioquia.
Thank you, Vincent. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on our video. We'd love to get your thoughts on the IF Weekly Briefing. And if you have any questions for the team, it would be great to hear from you. See you next week.